right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Military History Chronicles. Hopefully, everyone is having a fantastic Friday night. Here, it's Friday night where I'm at, here on the West Coast in California. But yeah, hopefully, everyone is having a fantastic Friday night. Let's get into some stuff here. What's up, Graham? I see you. I can't believe you're still awake, man. Hey, you're like me, man. These last few days, man, I've been staying up. I've been staying up pretty late, just monitoring everything going on. I mean, you, Graham, me and you have conversations late into the night. Yes. What's up, Eric? Drew, can you give me a little info into the channel? Well, yeah. Hey, I like talking military history, right? Military history, but it's just not about the battles either. We get into the political because politics has a lot to do with the military, diplomatic type stuff, foreign affairs, you name it. That's what I like talking about, Drew. My wheelhouse. I love talking about the damn Civil War, American Civil War. Love that stuff. But I'm also interested in other different types of wars that have transpired over the history. And I'm just a big history buff on top of that. So yeah, Drew, I got my master's in history with a concentration in military history. So that's just something I love talking about, Drew. That's just the way it is. What's up, Barmon? What's up, Aaron? But yeah, today's topic. Can there be a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine in their current war? Again, been going on 3+ years. I'm going to read from one of the best military theorists that is out there, or I should say, that has written stuff. Karl von Clausewitz, again, 19th century military theorist, but many of his writing still holds valid today, guys. It's fantastic stuff. For those of you who are interested in that type of stuff, I mean, on war, it's big. It is no joke. This is how thick this thing. That's the spine on it. Again, we're going to read I'm just going to read an excerpt from it. I'm not going to read a whole bunch of it, but just a little bit of something, just to give you an idea of what's going on, right? On what it takes to get a ceasefire. Look, you cannot will a ceasefire. The conditions on the ground will dictate whether or not ceasefires is even part of the equation. Is it even in the discussion? Because if neither side are fought out, and I use that term, if they're not fought out, in other words, if one side or the other isn't willing to give up, well, then how do you have a ceasefire? And no matter how hard a third party that wants to get involved with a ceasefire, it's not up to them. They're not involved in the game. They're not the ones losing men on the battlefield. They're not losing treasure, so to speak. So, and again, both parties have to agree to it. And currently, what's going on in the Russian-Ukrainian War, for those of you who have been monitoring it, Russia wants nothing to do with trying to have a ceasefire. They're dragging this out as long as they can. They want to achieve their ultimate goal, and that's to take over Ukraine. Not necessarily maybe as far as controlling, so to speak, the territory, but they want to install a puppet regime, and they want to have influence on that region, just like they are with Belarus. So that's their ultimate goal. Of course, Ukraine doesn't want anything to do with that. And they're fighting tooth and nail. So how do you sit there and how do you have a ceasefire when neither side wants to give up the fight? It just isn't. And I'll get into Carl here in a little bit. But as much as, and look, we'll talk about this, the Trump administration desperately wants to have a ceasefire. Why do they want to have a ceasefire? What is the underlying conditions of why they want to have a ceasefire? Is it because they truly want to have peace, or is it for some other ulterior methods or reasons, I should say? And a lot of that is just going to be more conjecture than anything else. So I don't want to go down that path, but you just can't sit there and say, oh, yep, there's going to be a ceasefire. That just doesn't happen. Period. It doesn't. And, if neither side, I said this a minute ago, if neither side are willing to come to the table, hey, you're not going to have a ceasefire. It's not. What's up, Steve-O? All right, let's get into this. Let's talk about this. Karl von Clausewitz, again, huge military theorist. The guy fought in many wars. Kind of talked about him. And after he had a matter of fact, he's a Prussian, but he actually went and fought with the Russians when they were fighting Napoleon, when Napoleon was on his march. Well, during his experience in fighting, he sat down and wrote a massive treatise. I don't know, I can even say it. A book. He wrote a massive book. Not all of it was fine-tuned. I think they said only really the first book is the one that he felt that was the most polished. But he wrote in this book, they call them books, right? For example, in On War, I think there's 7 or 8 books, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to be reading from book 3. The chapter is chapter 16, and it's called The Suspension of Action in War. And let's talk about this. Again, guys, just bear with me here for a minute. Let me make sure I get my freaking eyeballs working here. Again, this is from Karl von Clausewitz. Politically, only one can be the aggressor. There can be no war if both parties seek to defend themselves. The aggressor has a positive aim, while the defender's aim is merely negative. Positive action is therefore proper to the former, since it is the only means by which he can achieve his ends. Again, that would be Russia. They are the aggressors. The defenders, of course, is Ukraine. Consequently, when conditions are equal for both parties, the attacker ought to act, since his is the positive aim. He goes on to say, I only got a few more sentences to read here. Seen in this light, suspension of action in war is a contradiction in terms. Like two incompatible elements, armies must continually destroy one another. Like fire and water, they never find themselves in a state of equilibrium, but must keep on interacting until one of them has completely disappeared. Imagine a pair of wrestlers deadlocked and inert for hours on end. In other words, military action ought to run its course steadily, like a wound-up clock. Okay? So what is he saying? Basically, you're fighting until you can't fight anymore. So enter a ceasefire. You cannot achieve a ceasefire if neither side, and I said this in the very beginning, is fought out. Both sides are willing to continue the fight. Ukraine defending its territory and also trying to regain territory that it lost in 2014. And of course, the Russians trying to take more territory. So this is why it's very difficult. At this particular time, I don't think a ceasefire is going to happen. And then look, am I saying anything that's earth-shattering? No, I'm not. Everyone can kind of say, anyone who's been following the war can see that they're nowhere close to having a ceasefire. Until one side or the other has had enough, only then could there be a ceasefire, and then continuation onto an actual peace agreement. So no matter how hard the United States tries in wanting to invoke a ceasefire, they're not part of it. They're not players in this. They're not the ones defending their territory. Sure, are we giving them equipment? Yeah. But it's the Ukrainians who are dying on the battlefield. They're the ones who are losing their territory, and also with the Ukrainians trying to take it back. So if they don't have, quote unquote, skin in the game, then what's the point? And I saw some news reports today. I don't know if they're true or not. They're talking about the possibility of Ukraine giving up those 4 provinces. I guess I'll just call them provinces, 4 areas that Russia wants to take over. And right now they haven't taken over. They only have, I think, just over 50% of some of those territories. I think some territories a little bit more than others. But that's one of the conditions that Russia is setting. The oblasts, yeah. A lot of people don't know oblast, so I didn't use the word oblast, but yeah, 4 oblasts. But that's one of the conditions Putin wants for a ceasefire. And as you can see, this is kind of moving the goalpost a little bit here. First, it was, okay, we're going to stop attacking each other's energy infrastructure. We're going to get the Black Sea ceasefire where they're allowed to ship their grain and fertilizer and all this other stuff. Supposedly those are conditions for a ceasefire, but those came and went and there was no ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to all the ceasefire conditions, but Russia is not. Do you see the disconnect here? And look, and Russia's playing the game, man. They're playing the game. Here, let's bring this up real quick. And you guys know me. I like what Dr. Redchenko has to say. So let's bring up what he said earlier today. I can find it here. Hold on. Give me just bear with. Said something very good earlier. Boom, 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 boom. How about? Okay. Where is it at? Here we go. Here we go. Exactly what I was saying here. Follow with me, guys. Follow with me. Is there any movement on the front lines? Not really. It's pretty in the East. It's been pretty stable. Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Ukrainians had taken quite a bit of land over near. Oh gosh, I can't. Forgive me. I don't know the oblast name, but yeah, they were able to rout some of the Russians over there. Russians did take back the Russian territory that Ukrainians had invaded up there towards the north, up near Kursk Oblast. And I know they're having more excursions into Belgorod. Again, that's the Ukrainians invading some of the Russian territory. But yeah, it's pretty static over there on the east. All right, let's bring this up real quick, guys, and then we'll talk about it. Again, fantastic historian, guys. Historian of the Cold War and after. Okay. Fascinating interview. Here's the problem. In 1945, the U.S. had skin in the game. It could get things done because it was willing to risk a war with the USSR to protect its position in Germany. It showed that much in the Berlin airlift, okay? What we have today is an American government. Matter of fact, let me hit this. Is an American government that is negotiating like hell over Ukraine, but without pledging itself to the outcome, letting the Europeans sort things out later. This just doesn't hang together. You are either in or you are out. Either you commit to defending Ukraine indefinitely in a repeat of the Cold War, of Cold War Germany, or you shut up and go away. I think this is the trade-off. You can't have it both ways. The craziest thing is to be negotiating this on the Europeans' behalf. It's like, I don't know, Brazil negotiating a Potsdam Agreement. Potsdam Agreement was the end of the World War II in Potsdam, Germany. Agreement on U.S. behalf in 1945. We set the terms and you guys foot the bill and take the consequences. Again, it just doesn't add up, guys. It just doesn't add up. That's why this whole notion of trying to force feed a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine at this particular time is just not going to work. I mean, that's history, man. In all wars, you got to have a defeated. You got to have a victor and a defeated. And if there isn't, well, then the war continues. Look, war is brutal, guys. Hey, it's all good, Fossey. War is brutal. As William Tecumseh Sherman said, war is cruelty. There is no way to refine it. You just can't. Horrible things happen during wars. I understand. I see a lot of talk. Oh, guys, people need to stop dying. Yeah, I understand. People need to stop dying. But this is war. And you just because you make pronouncements doesn't mean war is going to end. It has a life in itself. So it's how is this going to proceed? I don't know. I think the fight still continues. How does it end? Anyone who knows? I don't know. I know Europe is starting to get involved, but they're kind of dragging their feet a little bit. I know that they have the coalition of the willing, but they keep having these pronouncements about just continuation of planning. And there's got to have to be action. words only go so far. So what is going to happen? Who knows? We'll find out soon enough. One thing is for certain, Ukraine isn't giving up. They're fighting, man. And they're not going to give up. 100% they don't want to give up. And as long as they're getting military assistance, I'm talking about as far as material, they will continue to fight. And it's pretty damn incredible what Ukraine has been able to do. But here's another thing. Here, matter of fact, probably here, I don't know if it's already gotten started, probably here in a couple of hours or so, there's going to be what do you want to call it? Negotiations between the United States and Iran in Oman. That's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Some interesting tidbits are coming out on what type of negotiations are going to happen there. But real quick, I think I got off track a little bit. Supposedly there was talk about maybe the United States asking Ukraine to give up those 4 oblasts. And look, that's a non-starter. That ain't going to happen. Europe isn't going to buy it. Ukraine isn't going to buy it. So why even suggest such a thing? Look, Putin is having his way, man. This guy is calculated. He knows what he's doing. And he is not just going to give up. He's not going to roll over. He is going to extract every bit of leverage that he can get. It's going to happen. And the sooner the administration understands that, the better you're going to be able to confront it. I suggest maybe getting some people who understand who Vladimir Putin is, who understand who Russia is, to understand what China is about. Maybe get some of those people in your administration, and maybe, just maybe, you're going to be able to get some headway somewhere. None of this is going to be solved overnight, by the way. To try to accomplish some of these goals in a short period of time is not going to happen. It just isn't. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and it's going to take some time. And it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Yeah, but as far as the topic here, is a ceasefire achievable at this time? No, it's not happening. No way. You just cannot force it. And I don't know what the Trump administration is going to try to do as far as forcing a ceasefire, because it's not going to work. This whole deal going on with Iran, I don't know what's going to happen. I saw some reports, and I don't know the validity of them. U.S. is trying to talk about allowing Iran to continue their enrichment, but as long as you don't build nuclear weapons, instead of demanding them to dismantle their entire nuclear enrichment process, they're going to allow them to continue, but make sure you just don't build a nuclear weapon. I said this in a tweet earlier, guys. All that's doing is kicking the can down the road, man. Because you damn well know if you allow Iran to continue to enrich uranium, they will build a nuclear weapon. There is no doubt about it. And let's hear it from you guys. Do you want to see Iran with a nuclear weapon? I don't know. For me personally, no, I don't want to see Iran with a nuclear weapon. I don't think they have any compunction in using such a weapon as well. I don't know. What's up, Drew? Says, I'm not very knowledgeable in the conflict. Is Putin concerned about restoring the Soviet Union, we'll say that, or gaining access to rare earth? Yeah, he's not trying to get it. For Putin, a lot of this is legitimacy, right? And if you read Dr. Radchenko's book, To Run the World, he talks a lot about that, and it's fascinating. It's a great thesis. Talking about having legitimacy. That's something that the Soviet Union and also Russia has always wanted. They wanted legitimacy in the world. In other words, respect us. And how do you gain respect? Well, you show how powerful you are. You kind of, to a certain extent, kowtow to them. And that's what Ukraine's more about. It's more about legitimizing the power of Russia. And yes, does he want to restore The old Soviet Union? Yeah, absolutely, he does. Absolutely. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. See, Ibrahim? There you go. You know it. That's exactly what it is. 100%. 100%. It's not necessarily about the territory. It's about how the territory gives him, as you said, Ibrahim, legitimacy and power. 100%. Spot on. You get an A. But as far as Iran is concerned, man, I don't know, man. That seems you're playing with fire. You cannot sit there and for a sake of getting an agreement, you can't sacrifice the security of the world because that's what it's going to come down to. And look, and this cannot be done. Hey, what's up, Jim? And the United States cannot do this unilaterally. You can't. You cannot. Iran getting a nuclear weapon involves Europe. It involves, of course, Israel, and it involves the United States. Okay, you can't allow them because they are adamant enough to sit there and be able to use one of those, and I don't want to risk that. Hey, look, you're gonna have to tell Iran in no certain terms here. You either dismantle or we will dismantle it for you. At this, I 100% agree. And yeah, but you got to get a coalition involved with this. It can't just be just American unilateral action. You gotta, hey, talk to your allies. Look, are they the ones that are going to be able to look? Is the United States have the ability to do this? Yes, but you want to make sure you're letting your friends know, hey, this is the deal. We're not going to tolerate this. And this is what we got to do. But you can't sit there and allow them to continue to enrich uranium because they're building a bomb, guys. Come on, that's what's happening, and that has to stop. And to be honest with you, Iran is in no position to dictate. They don't have no leverage. Israel successfully neutered Iran's air defense. So the United States will have no problem, excuse me, in taking care of Iran. Now, here's the question. Will you be able to knock out the entire process from the Iranians without putting boots on the ground? I don't know. I can't answer that. Usually in an operation like this, yes, air power is fantastic. The United States can inflict quite a bit of destruction with air power. And of course, cruise missiles of the type. So I don't know. That's something that's going to have to be talked about. You're going to have to you got to make sure you have intelligence on the ground to understand, okay, did those attacks accomplish the mission? Because it seems like we're having an issue with the Houthis. We've been bombing the Houthis for freaking over a year. Right? We've been hitting the Houthis for over a year, and it seems like we're still hitting them. So that tells me maybe something's going to have to be different if you're going to hit Iran. Johnny, I don't even know what that one means, man. I don't know what the weather dominator is. I have no idea what that is. We don't have friends, we have allies, says Paul. Okay, we could get into that one too, because this is, yeah. We could get into that. So with the whole Iranian thing, guys, we'll keep, I got Twitter up. I always got Twitter up just to make sure what's going on. Oh, here we go. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas I can't say his name. Araghchi has just arrived in Muscat, the capital of Oman, for today's nuclear talks with the U.S. delegation led by White House Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff. I don't care for him. Talks are expected to begin in the coming hours and will be mediated by Foreign Minister of Oman, Badir bin Hamad Al Busadi. Okay, so there we go. It's going to take place in a couple hours. So I'll probably be still awake when it's going on, just to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. But yeah, there you go. So those are going to be going. Cobra Commander. Cobra Commander. Cobra. Okay, gotcha. Damn. I used to watch freaking G.I. Joe. I just don't remember the Weather Dominator. What's up, PMG? Right on. Iran is okay. And this is the deal. You just can't go it alone. And speaking of not going alone, you guys want to talk China? Because that's going to be in the news often. I'm not liking what's going down there in the Western Pacific, guys. It's getting a little bit weird. Let's backtrack a little bit. I'm sure you guys know earlier in the week, we had all the news of all these tariffs, right? That's the answer for President Trump. He wants to level tariffs on anybody and everybody. He leveled tariffs against Europe. He leveled the tariffs against damn near every nation on this globe. PMG, you are correct. Then he continued to level tariffs against China. China retaliated. The United States retaliated to the retaliation. And of course, China retaliated again. So here we go. We are in a full-scale trade war with China. Okay. That being said, once that happened, I think President Trump, understood, hey, I think I overplayed my hand a little bit. He released some of the tariffs against Europe. I think it's back down to 10% rather than whatever the hell it was. Each country had a certain percentage because he's realizing he's biting off more than he can chew. Stock market was taking a dump. We got a whole bunch of other things. It's not just the stock market. We're talking about the US dollar. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about all this stuff. The economy is not in a healthy state. And if Ibrahim, if you're still out there, you could kind of chime in on what that all means for us here in the United States. But he saw this happening, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoa. Okay, we'll just go after China now. Okay. Problem is now you're going after the country that leads the world in all manufacturing. Okay. And I understand people. I hear this. We got to start making our own stuff. I get it. I understand it. And that is important. I think the United States needs to start building stuff here on the homeland. I get it. But it takes time. You got to build the infrastructure to make up for what you're going to pull back from China. Okay. You cannot decouple from China when you have nothing to couple to. Who are you going to rely on all your manufacturing? Who? There's no one else that manufactures like China. Sure, you got Vietnam. But look where Vietnam is. Look at a map. Look where Vietnam is. So, I mean, this is not going to be easy, guys. You got to have a plan in place before you start going off the handle and starting a trade war that you're not going to win. They're just not. China will pivot. And one thing what China will do, they are dogged. They're determined. They will not be embarrassed. You try to embarrass them and they will not fall away. They will fight to the end, so to speak. And look, and this is different. Sure, there's historical precedent. Yeah, during the Korean War, Mao Zedong made a lot of grandiose statements, right? But at that particular time, China wasn't the powerhouse that it is today. It's a different China than it was in the 1950s. Hell, this is a different China than it was in the early 2000s, guys. This China is a force to be reckoned with. And as PMG rightfully said, China has us by the nuts. And that's the truth. But how do you overcome that? It's unfortunately it's going to take time. This is not something. This is something you just cannot flip a switch and all of a sudden you're manufacturing all these products and everything is going to be hunky dory. It just isn't. You got to have some realism here, guys. And look, and what just happened is, and we all know China is going to invade Taiwan. It's coming. A lot of people have said it's going to occur in 2027. I think with all this stuff going on with this, with the trade war, that President Trump has successfully fast forwarded that timeline. I wouldn't be surprised if it's sometime this year where China decides to take Taiwan. And here's the problem, guys: it's not going to stop with Taiwan. China will also take control of the South China Sea. Again, that's where, gosh, I don't know what the percentage is. I think it's over 50% of the world's goods is transits the South China Sea. So what are you going to do about that? How are you going to defeat that? We are nowhere near able to stop China from taking over the first island chain. Well, the second island chain may even be suspect, to be honest with you guys. PMG, forget iPhones and Christmas presents. Think about people losing Medicare and Social Security because debt payments and military budget will all be the Fed can pay for. PMG? Yep. Yeah, I know. The interest rates are going to wind up staying where they're at right now. I think they're in the sixes right now, almost in the sevens. And the funny thing is, it's you talk about all these manufacturing jobs, right? Oh, we got to manufacture here in America. Yeah, that's I get it. But do you want to spend 3 times the amount for an iPhone? Do you want to spend 3 times the amount for your clothing or whatever else is manufactured in China, which is pretty much almost everything but food? You want to pay more. Look, I guarantee you guys ain't bitching. The same people who say, hey, we got to build in America, they're not bitching when they go to Walmart and they're getting their goods at a pretty damn good price. And why are they able to get it at a good price? Because it's manufactured in China. That's why. You got to be careful. Careful what you ask for. You got to have some sense. Gosh, man, you gotta have sense in understanding what is going on. This is not about blind loyalty to a person. This is not blind loyalty to a specific political party. It's about doing what is going to be best for everybody, to include the United States. And look what's happened. Let's go back to this. Say everything kicks off with China. Who's going to be in the United States corner? Well, you just done pissed off everybody because you imposed tariffs on Europe for no reason whatsoever. This is how you treat your allies, right? You treat your allies like dog shit. And he's come out and started talking shit about Japan again, guys. Talking about, I don't know why we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Japan. Because they're our friends and our allies. They rely on us for security. The reason why Japan is prosperous is because we are helping with the security. Because guess what? A world that has American security is a safe world. Period. But unfortunately, the current administration doesn't understand that. Would you rather have a world where the United States isn't involved in security, where everybody can fend for themselves, or would you rather have American security and everybody can benefit? Everybody. Let's think about this. After World War II, how many wars were in Europe? Can anyone guess? How many wars have transpired on the European continent? Don't say Eurasia. After, well, let's not even go Eurasia. Let's say Europe. Just in Europe. How many wars were fought in Europe after World War II? Take a guess. Take a guess. How many wars in Europe after World War II? Just throwing that out there. I want to see how many people know. Eric, pretty good. One. The Kosovo War, I don't count. That was a civil war in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was breaking apart and it was a mess. But one, Russian-Ukrainian War. Russian-Ukrainian War after World War II. How many wars were on the European continent prior to World War II? I don't have that many fingers. Graham. Yeah, Bosnia, Yugoslavia, Johnny. It's not. It was called the Kosovo War, but it was more of a civil war than it was anything else. It was Yugoslavia was breaking up, and it was a humanitarian crisis, and it involved NATO and other European countries. Graham, how many wars were in Europe prior to war or before World War II? I can't, dude, there's a lot. Let's just say that. There's a lot. Okay? What was the difference? What was the difference between Europe pre-World War II and post-World War II? Anyone have to take a guess? What was the biggest difference pre-World War II compared to post-World War II? Anybody? Thank you, Eric. Because of what the United States was able to do as far as security. Okay? The world was more secure after World War II, even though you had the Cold War, but it was more secure. The United States had the world's back to make sure nothing crazy happened. The Russian-Ukrainian War, you could say, was started because American power in Europe started to wane, right? It started to wane. Started taking our eye off the ball. Falling asleep at the wheel. Call it what you may. And of course, when that happens, when you have a lack of security by the United States or the willingness to fight, and fighting doesn't always mean shooting guns and dropping bombs, by the way. But when the United States isn't there as a strength, well, then bad actors will take advantage of it. So the more that the United States pulls back, the more dangerous that this world is going to become, guys. Now, that being said, do we have to have friends and allies? Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to. That makes it even that much more strong. When you have friends such as the United Kingdom and Germany and France, the Baltics, Poland. Poland is a powerhouse, by the way, guys. Poland is not a country to take lightly. But when you have the foundation of American security added with the help of allies, you're going to be able to accomplish a whole bunch of stuff for the good. Not for the bad, not looking to take over people's territory, not to impose totalitarian type of conditions on another people. It's about freedom. It's about liberty. Sure, we can all have, every country is going to have their internal problems. It happens. We have our internal problems. Europe has their internal problems. Every country in the world has their internal problems, but at the foundation, you guys got to have relationships here. Because without it, look, you go it alone, we're gonna be in a world of hurt. Because the United States isn't the same as it was. Even heck, you want to go about 10 years ago, maybe? Just picking up an arbitrary number. And what you're going to do is, if the United States are pissing off friends and allies, man, this is not good. Because look, if Europe and the United States were able to confront China, they will have success, because with the united forces of America and Europe outproduces what China can do, and that's a fact. Problem is, when you start pissing off your friends, now you have division. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to pan out here, guys, over in the Western Pacific, and it's not going to end well. And what has to happen is there's got to be some concrete decision making that is happening here with this administration. You cannot have a person who wakes up day to day with different ideas running around in his head and just acting on it. You got to have a concise plan, involve friends and allies, and you move forward. You're going to have disagreements. I get it. But it's how you handle those disagreements. You don't threaten. You don't ridicule. You have discussions. You talk. Because what's that going to get you? It's going to get you nowhere. You're going to get people pissed off at you. This isn't New York real estate. It just isn't. This is totally different, guys. And see, the thing is Trump, if you think about it, in his first term, he had a fantastic cabinet. He had people in positions that understood their jobs. They were subject matter experts in the jobs that they were in charge of. In this term, he doesn't have these subject matter experts. He has guys that are just going to bow their head, nod, yes, sir, and go on their merry way. They're not subject matter experts in this stuff, and they're not gonna be a dissenting voice to tell President Trump, sir, Mr. President, you're wrong. We got to do it this way. You have to, and if you're not doing that, well, guess what? It's going to lead to some pretty awful decision making, and I think we've already seen that. Remember, what is this? April 11th, guys. It hasn't even been 3 months into his second term. And look how much chaos there is. Look, the world was already chaotic, right? Before President Trump came into office for his second term. Pretty damn chaotic. Yeah, is there there's periods in history, right, where it's not as chaotic as other times. But when President Trump came into office, it was pretty damn chaotic. And he's adding to the chaos. And that is not a position you want to be in. Hard decisions have to be made. You got to have a plan, and you got to make sure that you execute that plan. Does it mean it's going to be executed? Heck, a lot of this stuff will not be even finished in his when his term is over. Some of the stuff takes a very long time to accomplish. Thank you, Aaron. Yes. President Lincoln understood that. Absolutely, man. 100%. Right on, Aaron. I've seen that too. That's the problem, Tom. That's the problem. That's not going to accomplish anything. You got to hear different ideas, whether it's your Secretary of Defense, whether it's your National Security Advisor, whether it's the National Director of Intelligence, whether it's the Commerce Secretary or the Treasury Secretary. You got to put people in those positions that are going to do their job. Yeah, and you know what? You may not agree with their decisions, but that's probably the best course of actions to take. We don't know. Paul, that's a good question. We don't know. I'm just going by what people are saying. That's all I could go by, Paul. And some of these things that these secretaries are saying are absolutely wild in what they're saying. It just doesn't add up, Paul. It just doesn't. PMG. Oh, you're talking about some stuff here. Look at the fight they're picking with the courts on deportation. Yes, there is a complete breakdown of the 3 branches. Yes, only one branch has any juice. Yes. Right now, our government is in a state of flux. We need to get back on track. We're a little askew, right? We're a little askew. But the beauty of this country is we have the capability of getting back on track. Not all is lost. Sure, there may be some pain. There may be some bumps in the road. But hopefully cooler heads will prevail and we'll get back on track. I can't tell you when that would be. I can't tell you who would be involved. But we have a system in place that has the capability of getting back on track. We've gone through some pretty difficult times in our over 200 years of existence as a nation, right? We survived the Civil War. We survived 2 world wars, political upheaval, cultural wars. We've survived those. So we've been through a lot as a nation. And there's no reason why we cannot get back on track. I have faith that we can get back on track. You know, we're in the United States of America. We could sit here and have this conversation about our government and about our leaders. There's a lot of countries, if I'm sitting here doing this, freaking, I'm going to get a knock at the door. Right? So again, we live in a pretty damn good country here, and we can't take it for advantage. Lot of people have lost their lives. A lot of blood has been spilt in protecting the freedoms that we have here in the United States. Can never forget that. Can't take it for granted. And we got to be good stewards, man. People look at us. Other countries look upon us as you want to say. Remember President Reagan, that shining light on the hill, right? Or the shining city on the hill. We just need to understand that people look upon us as guidance. People look upon us as helping them in the time of need. So let's not forget that, and let's not throw away what has been built up. And I saw Graham talking about it, what has been built up over these last 80 years. That cannot be just tossed aside. Yeah, I hear you, Senior. Yeah, I think a lot of people miss Reagan. Look, was Reagan perfect? No. He had his issues, right? You know, the war on drugs exactly wasn't the most exemplary action to take. It put people in jail that didn't need to belong in jail. It was nuts. It was dumb. But as far as foreign policy, the guy was spot on, right? He knew what it took. No, come on, Paul. Let's not always go there. Is there people that do that? Absolutely. There are entities out there that do try to take advantage of that. But Paul, we're the United States of America. Let's act like the grown up in the room. Yes, Graham, we have been. It's not everything is about a handout. And sometimes, hey, Paul, sometimes you got to pay for security to have a safe world. That's why we have troops in Korea. That's why I have troops in Japan, in Guam, in Europe, in Southwest Asia. There's a reason. because the world's a safer place when America is leading the charge. Period. We'll see. We'll see how this all transpires. Again, guys, the United States and their Iranians are going to get ready to start here talking here in the next couple of hours. There you go. And Ibrahim, you talked about it. Stability of governments equals stability of markets. That is correct. When you have volatility in government, you're going to have volatility in the markets, which hurts everybody. It hurts everybody. Unless you're sending out a tweet telling people to buy. Come on, man. Come on. Come on, dude. Seriously, dude. Seriously. How does that happen? The market takes a serious shit, and then literally an hour or two, yeah, thank you. And literally an hour or two before he lifts the tariffs, he sends out a tweet saying buy. Made about 40 million and a half. Yeah. And then, hey, PMG. And then the next day, what happened? What happened the next day? It went back into the shitter again. Dude, come on, man. You can't be doing that. Hey, Benji, thanks, man. Appreciate that. It's always great hearing Eric speak since in these uncertain times. Always a pleasure to listen. Must tune in. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Again, guys, if you follow me on, I got it right over here. Oh, let me go over here. Master History 23. I'm pretty active on Twitter. I like having conversations. Again, like I said, sometimes I get a little snarky, but I usually try to stick to the topic at hand. I don't like to, I'm not a name caller or anything like that, but I will call out when people say something and I use their own words, right? Yeah, I know. And tell me, PMG, let's talk to the normal everyday American citizen out there who's got a 9 to 5, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, may have a little bit of savings. And then you got the president in the Oval Office talking about how he made billionaires more billions. Is there something? Am I missing something? Is seriously, right? I mean, come on. There's something wrong with that. You're out of touch, man. Yeah. How? Cole, that's a possibility. You know, I see what you're saying. Oh, Biden was a mess. I see what you're saying, Eric, but Biden was a disaster. He was yes, I understand that he kept the alliance together, so to speak. But how did the alliance really feel about Biden? I can't imagine that they were too pleased with him because the guy was he was an empty suit. He was a disaster. Biden was a disaster. We haven't had a decent president in ages. It's fair. On both sides of the aisle. Yeah. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Let's take a look. What's going on here? I don't see anything going on. Was there any other? Man, I was busy today on Twitter. Goodness gracious, man. Let's see. Was there other? Oh, see, it's gonna take too long. I can't do that. I can't do that. There's a lot of stuff that I read out there on Twitter. Maybe they're very long, drawn out tweets. Fantastic information, though. What do we got here? Let me see. Mm-hmm. Cool. No, I didn't see it. I heard just a little bit of rumblings. I didn't get to the crux of what was going on. Anyways, what else we got going out there, guy? I think I pretty much covered everything. Is there anything else out there? I know President Trump, he signed something about increasing shipbuilding. That's good. That was some good news that Trump wants to get a jump start on shipbuilding, but we're way behind the curve on that one. There's no way we're going to compete with what China's doing right now. It's better late than never, but holy crap, I already told you guys, Western Pacific it's going to be weird. Yeah, it's got absolutely, Paul. It has to get started. We've been neglecting that for a long, long time. A long, long time. And it's been over numerous administrations, to include President Trump's first. That's what happens, man. Again, I've said that. You take your eye off the ball, you fall asleep at the wheel. Guess what? You got other countries who are going to try to surpass you, and China has done it, man. Hey, there you go, Ibrahim. If you're a U.S. citizen and haven't filed your returns or extensions, Tuesday is tax day, unless you lived in a disaster zone, i.e., like Southern California, right, with the fires. I don't know. Some of those hurricane areas, I don't know if they're still disaster areas. They might be. The peace dividend was oversold. Yes, Graham. Well, I think his advisors were telling him to do that. The problem is, Paul, he didn't take advantage of it when they had a Republican majority in his first 2 years of his first term. They should have pushed it through, but they didn't. Then the Democrats took over, and then forget about it. See, and that's the problem with politicians. You gotta be a little bit thinking ahead. If you don't think ahead, well, then we're screwed. Because everyone understands how quick government works. Yeah, he's doing it now, but again, like I said, the die is cast. Aaron, does the United States qualify as a disaster zone? Oh man. Oh man. And here's another thing, Paul. When you got Pete Hegseth as your Secretary of Defense, just saying, guy isn't qualified to do that, to fill that position. Nope. Commerce Secretary, Lutnick. There's a little bit of whatever. I'm not going to even say it. I don't like it. It's a bad look. Doesn't smell right with what the position he's filling, considering where he came from. Witkoff doing all these negotiations. Don't like it. Yes, Ibrahim. Graham. All right. I don't like Letnick. Anyways. All right, let's end this on a good note. What do we want to do? What can we end it on a good note? I don't want to get out of here on a bad note. What do we got out there, guys? Hold on. Is there anything? Anything? Hmm. What do you got here? Let's see. Looking. Train video. All right. Let's see what we got here. No. Nope. Oh, Finnerty's. Yeah, Finnerty's is back open. Still looking. I ain't gonna find anything good. Nah, better not looking Twitter. Not right now. My timeline is a mess. After this one, you're gonna need a cat video. Play the Jung-Hoo Lee home run. Yeah, no kidding, right? I look back in time. Oh, let's see. Oh, look at this. Looking at my fantasy baseball. Talk about a freaking. There's so many. This is so close, man. So close. Damn, there are so many. I mean, there's like so many teams just within like 100 points of each other. Some are just within like 40. Crazy. Graham. Seems to be a new axis. The plan is Ukraine, Taiwan, Greenland. I still don't even understand the whole Greenland stuff. That is just that's just weird. Weird. All right. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna close it down. I think we pretty much covered everything. Unless you guys got something else. Law of the Seas Treaty, mineral rights off coastal waters. Everything is about minerals with Trump. He tried to get a mineral deal done with Afghanistan. That didn't work out. Trying to get a mineral deal with Ukraine. I don't see that working out. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't think so. Not right now. I guess Greenland is all about minerals too. Something like that. The Arctic Ocean is going to open up. What's it going to open up? He's not getting Greenland. Don't believe what Trump is saying with that. He's not getting Greenland. That's just crazy talk. Come on. I'm not even entertaining that. And let's not forget, that's another thing, guys. China supplies much of the world's rare earth minerals. And then you just done pissed off China. So what do you think is going to happen to those rare earth minerals to the United States? Yeah, it's going to dry up. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you, he just doesn't think before he does some of these things, and that's what's gonna that's what's going to be a detriment to this country. Ha, Johnny. All right, guys, let's get the hell out of here. You guys go enjoy the rest of your Friday night. You could be able to catch me tomorrow night sometime, maybe. If there is a game tomorrow, we don't know if there's going to be a game tomorrow between the Giants and the Yankees, but you'll be able to see me back on Giant Sports Talk Live. So I hope to get to the Fort Knox, announce all the gold account. PMG. All right. Again, guys, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Friday night. And we'll see you on the next one. Maybe in another 2-3 weeks, somewhere on there, unless something freaking huge breaks. You'll catch me in about 2 weeks or so, somewhere around there. But all right, guys, be good to each other out there. Take a deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. San Francisco Giants will get Corbin Burns. Yeah. Yeah, just relax. We'll weather the storm, and let's just get through this. Don't let it affect you too much, guys. Enjoy your lives. Go about your day. Try not to let all this crazy stuff get you guys down, because it can easily happen. So just hang in there, guys. All right, we'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.